We're going to go ahead and get started with our speaker for this morning. I'm so excited to announce that we have our first international speaker. We have Anna with us this morning. So I'm going to show you her slide, introduce us, and tell you a little bit about her. Is all good, Dr. Etchels? Can you see me? I know my setup's a little different today.
Yeah, I can see your slide. I can't see your camera.
Okay, that's fine.
Keep rolling, Jordan. You're doing a great job.
Awesome. Okay. So howdy, welcome back to Path to Publication, our first application and workshop with an international speaker. I'm really excited about that this morning. For those of you who are new, Path to Publication is a professional development workshop that focuses on various topics, including publishing, writing, research and grants, and the graduate student experience. This platform provides distinguished guests opportunities to share their insights and expertise and hopes to move us all forward in our own writing agendas and publications. The workshop is supported by the Education Leadership Research Center, directed by Dr. Beverly Irby, and the Center for Research and Development in Language and Literacy Acquisition, directed by Dr. Laura Alessio, as well as the Graduate Student Advisory Council. If along the way you have questions, please type them in the chat for the discussion at the end. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend. Now I'll introduce our international speaker. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Anna Abesadze, the advisor to the rector and lecturer at Grigol Robakidze University and a global governance coordinator at World Vision International. She has worked in a highly competitive multicultural environment, including the United States, Asia, and Europe. She has received multiple awards recognizing work ethic from the U.S. Department of State, the Peace Corps, and a Presidential Volunteer Service Award recipient from the White House. Anna has also served as an invited speaker of world-class NSPA and NAFSA conferences. We're so excited to have you here today, Anna. We're ready for your opening remarks. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and share your slides.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Hello, everyone, and welcome. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the Path to Publication for inviting me here today. I'm deeply honored to have the opportunity to address such a distinguished international audience. As Jordan introduced me, my name is Anna Abesadze. I'm an advisor to the rector and the lecturer at Grigol Robakidze University. It's based in Tbilisi, Georgia, and let me clarify, it's not the state of Georgia, but the country of Georgia. I also serve as a global governance coordinator at the World Vision International. Today, I'm here to provide you with some information about email writing etiquette, and particularly, I will focus on the importance of knowing email writing skill as a scholar, structure of formal email, and the tips on email do's and don'ts. And let me get started. Then can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Looks ready to go.
Perfect. So I'm sure that question I'm going to ask now, a lot of you have thought about it before deciding if you wanted to attend this session or not. So my question is, why do you think the email writing skill and etiquette is important for scholars? And let me start discussing that without a question. Email has grown to be a viable and indispensable means of information exchange in academia. It's a quick and efficient way for employees to communicate with supervisors, colleagues, professors, and etc. And unfortunately, the inability to write a proper email can cause frustration from the other side. And on the opposite, knowing how to write an effective email can avoid misunderstandings and, believe me, save a lot of time. Also, most scholars are using emails to look for a collaborative work opportunity for research or for other projects, and the email might be your first and the last chance to make the first impression. As I have mentioned, knowing the email etiquette helps you to make the first good impression and also project's professional image, and not only builds but maintains good relationships. And furthermore, it's an important skill to have when applying for jobs, seeking promotion, and vice versa. Even not knowing your organization email policy can get you in trouble and even jeopardize your job. And before moving on to the first part of the presentation, I would like to share a few interesting facts about the email. The first email ever sent was in 1971. This was sent by the engineer Ray Tomlinson, who invented the email program. And when it's really interesting because when he sent the email from one computer, he received it from the one seated right next to him. 86% of professionals say that email is their favorite way to communicate, which is a really high number. The average person who works in an office receives, and you won't believe this, 122 emails a day and sends out 40 business emails a day. And because checking the email is connected with and also replying to the emails is connected with the sense of achievement and satisfaction, scientists have found that checking your email releases dopamine. So let's move to the first part of the presentation now, which I'm sure all of you know. There are two types of emails. The formal one, which we write it, it's a professional letters, which we send to someone we don't know, or to our colleagues, supervisors, professors, and anyone in the workplace. Therefore, when you write the formal email, we definitely need to follow the specific etiquette. However, the second type of email, which is informal one, doesn't really need any specific etiquettes because this is the one that you write to your relatives, to your friends, so there is not really any specific rules to follow. And when we start discussing the emails, we really need to have a good understanding of the recipient fields. And what are the recipient fields? The first one is the one that the letter is going to, so the main recipient. So in the section 2, we write if I'm writing, for example, the email to Matthew, so Matthew will be the main recipient, and I'm expecting to hear back from him. However, if I CC Jordan, I'm not really expecting her to reply back. My main intention of putting her in the CC or carbon copy is that I'm trying to keep her in the loop or keep her posted on the subject of the email and what the email is talking about. So basically, the 2 is the main recipient, and then the CC is the person who you are trying to keep in the loop. And for the BCC, which is for protecting the privacy of the recipient, it stands for the blind carbon copy. And we use it, for example, the professors use it whenever they send something to the class. And of course, in some countries, there is a law, the data protection law, that really is against sharing that publicly, the email addresses. However, even if there isn't one, I would still advise you to use all the student emails in the BCC because we don't have permission from the students that we can share these emails with other classmates. So please use that. And also we use BCC or blind carbon copy. For example, if I don't want the recipient to see that I want the other person who is copied on the BCC on the email to see it. However, as a general rule, and it's really it's not nice to BCC someone if the recipient would not have been comfortable with him or her being BCC'd. So of course, basically use the BCC for protecting the privacy of the recipients. So that will be the general recommendation. The main structure of the email is, there are different structures of different formal emails. However, this is the general one, and it needs to include the subject line, greetings and addressing the recipient, opening phrase, introduction, body, action point, closing, and email signature. And I'm going to discuss each of them in details. So the subject line is the line that appears even before you open the email. So you see in this picture. So the main rule about subject line is that we need to keep it short and to the point. So before the person opens the email, they already need to know, and they already have to realize from the subject line what the email will be about. So it needs to be clear and specific about the topic of the email. And if you have an opportunity to do that, I would advise you to set a deadline in the subject line, and if it's applicable, of course. And some of the examples include question about next Wednesday's meeting. So this is pretty clear. It's short and specific on the topic. Another one could be information needed on scholars as soon as possible. So I also included the timeline because I want you to receive it as soon as possible. And of course, if something is really, really time sensitive, it would be much better to use the high priority email. So the one that has the red exclamation mark. However, it's really recommended to use the high priority or high importance emails when something is really urgent. So moving on to the salutation and then the greetings and the addressing the recipient. This is a very important part of the email. We can start with, we can refer to the person, address them as Miss. We can use the titles, Mr., Doctor, and it could be followed by their last name. For example, Mr. Barnett, Dr. Barnett. I usually in the workplace, I use dear, and then the name of the person I'm writing the email to. If the email is too formal, then you can use, for example, to the embassies, we often use to whom it may concern. We don't know the name of the person, dear sir, dear madam. And there is a question when it comes to discussing these parts of the email. Do we use colon or do we use comma? So what's the rule about that is that we use colon when the email is too formal. For example, when we are writing to the ambassadors and when we are writing to, I don't know, the president. However, we use comma most of the time. And from my practical experience, I've also seen that mostly people really use commas, even if the email is too formal as well. But this is the rule to go about. So using the colon is mostly recommendable whenever we write something really too formal. Let's move to the opening phrases. When we start writing the email, the first thing we write is, before we move to the introduction, it's opening phrase, and it really makes you feel, makes the other recipient feel comfortable, and makes you look really friendly. Some of the examples are, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you're well. I hope this email finds you well. So it's really contextual, depending on how close you are with that colleague. If you know them at all. So if you don't know them, I think I would go about, I hope you are well, or I hope this email finds you well. So something more formal, and this is most commonly used phrases. However, when the COVID started, there was really a popular phrase that people used to use due to the context. It was, I hope you are staying healthy and well during these unprecedented times. And I think it really reflected that situation. So please use the type of opening phrase that you feel comfortable about. However, to keep it professional, of course, it needs to be formal. After opening phrase, we can start introducing our topic. And to introduce a topic, some of the really good phrases to use are I'm writing with regards to. I'm writing to let you know. If we are sharing bad news, we can use I regret to inform you that. If we are responding to someone, I'm writing in response to, I'm writing in reply to. And we can search for alternative phrases on internet, and believe me, it really helps to use those phrases in the beginning, and afterwards it really comes in practice, and it will just come up in your head. And the next one, the body, there is not really specific etiquette how to write it. However, we need to agree that it should be clear and concise, and we really need to be I would say mindful of the recipient person's time, because only we need to share the information that's connected with the topic. We need to keep it short and on the point. And when we prepare the initial draft, we need to make sure that we go over it to make sure that the punctuation is correct, and also there are not any misspelled words. We are moving to the action points, which is really important part of the email. In action point, we are asking the recipient of the email what action we are requiring them to take. And when we are writing the action points, we need to make sure to be clear on our requests. So when the recipient reads it, they should not have any further questions. If possible, and if applicable, we need to give a deadline. For example, at your earliest convenience, as soon as possible, no later than Friday, April 19th, etc. And because we are asking it to someone, we need to be polite, for example, using the phrases, could you please? Do you think you could? Would you please? Etc. And like the opening phrase, we should use the closing as well. And some of the closing examples are looking forward to hearing from you soon. Please let me know if this works. Thank you in advance. I usually use thank you in advance a lot, because just to show my appreciation and that I'm thankful for the action that they're going to take. Some of the examples are, if you could have it read by the end of the next week, I would really appreciate it, and etc. The last but very important part of the email is signing off and email signature. Whenever you are, of course, the email signatures are different, but must-have things are name and surname, job title, contact information, and relative details about your company. Of course, we can use some other information, and depends on that, but we need to keep it professional. One of the examples here is this one. This is a pretty good example. I've used my sign-off as well. So basically it includes all the requested information, signing off, my name and surname, job title, the university name, my contact information, and the website of the company. And I will also show you the examples that are not really good. So in this one, you see that the font is not the same. There are different colors, and it also uses the expressions. For email etiquette, we need to be aware of that. We should not really use the inspiration phrases unless we are in the business of either coaching or inspirational phrases. Another one is this as well. So just to be, even though they include the requested information, so they include a lot more information, and some of them are not relevant. And please make sure that the font and then the size and everything is really consistent, so that it so that it looks professional. Since we have covered the structure of the email, let's read what the professional email should look like. And I decided to highlight this, this part to make sure that you understand which one with this. So when starting with the subject line, which, before you open the email, could be question about next Wednesday's meeting. So before I open the email, I already know what the email is going to be about. And in the addressing the recipient, I'm starting with, Dear John, the opening phrase for email, I hope this email finds you well. And the introduction. I'm reaching out to inquire about our upcoming Zoom meeting next Wednesday. So I've already introduced the topic. In the body, I have just finished the meetings with our managers who are planning to join the Zoom call next week. Most of them asked me if I could provide them with further pre-meeting information. So if I stop here, and if I do not include the action points, the recipient might have questions. So she shared all the information about this. So what? And here comes the action point. Before sending the calendar invitation to the meeting participants, could you please tell me at your earliest convenience if they need to prepare for the meeting or query anything? And the closing phrase, looking forward to hearing from you, and then including the email signature. So I've just shared the sample email, including all the parts of the email etiquette. Now let's move to my favorite part, email do's and don'ts. The first one is, please look at your email address, and I'm talking about the personal email address, to determine how it represents you. Some of the bad examples here are youngforever at gmail.com, partyhard91 yahoo.com, and good examples are George Barnett at gmail.com, so name and last name. It could also include your date of birth, and .smith91 at yahoo.com. So this, I know, might not seem a really big deal for us, but for a human resource department, it really is. So whenever you send out an email, of course, try to represent yourself as well as you can, and email address is also part of that. The next one is really important, to watch your tone and be aware of the culture. Watching your tone is so important because, first of all, there's such a huge difference between the cultures. And in addition, when we are writing to people, we really are not seeing their facial expressions. So please do make sure that you use a lot of words like please, thank you, just to seem as friendly as possible. And knowing the culture is really important. For example, in my country, in Georgia, we don't really use in the communication the words like please. It's just not the part of the culture and part of the language. And I had some issues, first of all, when I started working internationally, because I didn't use please, I was not intentionally rude or anything, because it was just the way I translated from my Georgian. It didn't include please in there. So I think knowing that and being aware of that is really important. And if you're writing to someone outside of your country, please get more information about their culture, about their country, because no matter how friendly you try to be, there might be some details. If you don't keep them in mind, then it might not be, the communication might not be successful. And one of the examples is Japan. So when you are writing the business communication with them, if you do not inquire about the weather in the first place, so it's considered rude. So this is one of the examples. We need to get as much information about those people as possible. The cultures are not, none of them are wrong or right. They are just different, and we need to be aware of these differences. The next one is sending emails at appropriate hours or working hours of the day. It's really hard for some people, especially now that we are working remotely. For example, I'm working personally in different time zones to LACRO, United States, and it's whenever I go to sleep, so that's when I keep receiving the email. So, however, if you're in one time zone, please make sure that you send out the emails during the work hours, because we need to keep the privacy of their, some people are with their families and they have their email applications downloaded in their phones. So it's really important that we respect their boundaries, their family or the personal time, and please do not send the emails at 2 a.m. or so trying to be as respectful as we can. This leads me to my next point. It's giving timely responses and following up. Well, I have actually a question to the audience. What do you think is the right, proper time to send the reply to the messages? And please type your answers in the chat box. So what do you think? It's considered polite 2-3 days, okay? Do you have any more responses? I try to respond within 24 hours if possible. Thank you. Okay, within 1-3 days. If not a high priority, 1-2. Okay, perfect. 1-2 days. Okay. So there are different sources that say that it ranges from 1 to 2 days. It's usually polite to respond to person within 24 hours. 24 hours in our organization, and of course, it's not time sensitive. So for regular emails, it's considered an etiquette to respond within 24 hours. However, if we are working on a different project and it really gets stressful, and because we have so many other projects and we can't really, and especially we said that averagely in the office hours, daily on 24-hour basis, we receive averagely 122 emails. So it's really hard to respond to each of them. However, if something is either time sensitive or even regular, and if you cannot respond within 1 or 2 business days, please let them know that you've received the email and you are working on that. So that's considered a polite, and also it's considered an etiquette to do that. And another question I have to the audience is, when do you usually follow up if you don't receive an email, to the regular email, not the one that's time sensitive? So if you send an email today, when would you follow up if you don't receive the answer? Two, 3 days after it, no response. Okay, within 5-7 days. Perfect. So you guys are already email etiquette superheroes. I guess that's from the experience as well. And thank you for sharing your responses. Usually the etiquette is to follow up in in a week or so, because if it's not time sensitive, and depending on what kind of prior conversation you had with the recipient, because we are all considered busy. So if it's not time sensitive, usually the etiquette is to follow up within a week. And respond to all emails. And of course, when I say all emails, I don't mean scam, but it's considered an etiquette to respond to all emails. And if we don't like a person in the workplace, we can just say, oh, Catherine wrote me, I don't want to respond to that email. So we have to respond to all emails. And if even the answer is no, we have to say politely that and explain. So responding to all emails really represents you professionally. However, of course, be careful. There are so many emails that are scams, and we need to think twice before we respond to them. And this is really, really important, proofreading emails before sending and checking the attachments. I'm really, really happy that there is in Outlook, there is that system that asks you that if you mentioned that Word attachment in the email. And if you don't have an actual attachment, it reminds you, are you sure that you would like to send the message because it doesn't have an attachment? And it really saves my life. And proofreading emails is very important because even one letter can change the whole world and can change the whole meaning. Proofreading it makes us look more professional, and it's also very respectful because it means that we have taken extra time to reread it. And I really wanted to share some screenshots, but some of them were inappropriate. But just changing one letter can change the whole word. So please be careful with them. This point I'm going to discuss now is actually in every recommendation about emails, because it refrain from using sarcasm and humor. This is because we don't know how our recipient receives it. We don't know. So if you know your colleague really, really well, please do not use humor or sarcasm because it can be translated differently. So save it for the face-to-face communication, because there has been cases when it has caused, it has got someone in trouble. So keep all the emails professional. And one of the thing that I read and I really liked was that, so whenever you're sending emails, please make sure that's like, how would you feel if it was posted on Facebook or if your supervisor saw it? And let me clarify that whenever you send the email, no matter if you delete it or not, it stays there and it stays in the hard drive. So everybody can, if requested, your supervisor can access it. And so whenever you write the email, just think, what if my supervisor read it? Make sure that whatever you write, it cannot be deleted. So there won't be any second chances. And do not reply to all. This is one of my favorites. So when you get a message from your HR, and then all of the people are copied there, 100 and something, and then you reply to all saying that information that only HR needs to know, it really irritates the other people. And this is something I think it happened to us at least once. And it happened to me as well, and I was really, really embarrassed. And I know it's also from the lack of experience, but this is something we really, really need to pay attention to. And I have a video that talks about how replying all in real life looks like. And I just wanted to watch that with you all to make sure we all understand what reply all makes the other recipients feel like to receive 100 and something notifications about yes or no. And Jordan, I'm going to start this video, but I also want to make sure that I have shared the sound. And let me stop sharing and re-share it to make sure that it has a sound.
Sure. What I will do is I will show you from the YouTube.
Just a reminder.
Jordan, can you hear the voice of the...
For those of you going on the trip tomorrow,
yes,
we'll be from the west side of the parking lot at 3 p.m. Lunch will be provided.
I'm gluten-free.
Okay, Trisha, let's have that conversation after class.
I'm also gluten-free, and I would love to join that conversation.
Not to play devil's advocate, but gluten allergies are definitely fake. I've done extensive research.
Reminder, this is not a time for self-promotion.
Sorry, I don't think I'm supposed to be in this class.
Oops, wrong, Allison. You can leave.
Wait, Sam? Sam Kent? Is that you?
No, that's not me. People always think they know me. I hate it when that happens. Here's a picture of a smiley face to mask what I'm really feeling.
That emoji is old news. Here's a picture of my feeling regarding your feeling.
Side conversations should be conducted on your own time.
Sorry, I'm just popping in now, but did anyone ask if the lunch is gluten-free?
Oh, God. Everyone, refocus. Remember, you must bring bug spray.
Brian, this class is a nightmare. Everyone's an idiot.
You just said that to the whole class.
Oh my God. Just kidding. I didn't mean to say that to everyone. I really like this class, and I think we're going to have a fun trip.
Jeez. Professor, I completely understand the original instructions. So, can I be removed from the remainder of the class?
I'd also like to be removed.
Same. Please remove me as well.
I didn't mean to. I don't know what just happened. I have nothing to say.
Sorry, I just woke up. Can someone recap everything that I've missed?
What people are forgetting is that I brought you all together for what I thought was a lecture.
Totally, Professor, but since my question wasn't answered, I will waste everyone's time repeating it. Is the lunch gluten-free, or do I need to make a stir-fry?
Bump up of my article debunking the gluten-free myth, danfuller.com, danfuller.com.
Trigger warning, I find that offensive.
TLDR.
I'm really embarrassed.
Since this has gotten way out of control, and not one adult can seem to grasp how this should work, I'm going to go ahead and leave you. See you all tomorrow at 3 p.m.
I really do love this class. Also, where are we meeting?
Well, I hope you enjoyed the. Let me come back and share my PowerPoint. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. So this is what reply all feels like in real life. So whenever you reply to someone where a lot of other colleagues or students are copied, please make sure if they don't want to hear that information, please just reply to the sender. So another, we are going to discuss the other email do's and don'ts. Do not send angry emails. And this is, a lot of email etiquette, I said that it's very important, but this is really, really the most important one. If you're really angry about your colleague or you want to, express your emotions, please save the draft and look at it, hours later, because if we, as I've discussed before, whatever we write, it cannot be deleted. And it's not also what we write and what email we share, but how we write it, how we communicate it. So please make sure that whenever you're angry, only save the draft, do not send it right away, because a lot of my colleagues, I have that from the personal examples as well, they've regretted it afterwards. And whenever you are angry, just please do not send the emails. And anything that can be covered during the face-to-face communication, I would also not use the emails. And do not use emojis and slangs and too many exclamation marks. Of course, emojis and slangs, you can use it and save it for the messages. However, for the professional email writing, please do not use them. What's wrong with too many exclamation marks? Whenever we write the exclamation marks, either for, it can be translated differently, especially when we are writing to people, we don't use our verbal communication, non-verbal one. So too many exclamation marks can be taken as offensive, especially if it comes to, telling someone to do something. And exclamation mark, even one, which can be used is only to express the excitement and, to sound friendly, but it's an etiquette not to use more than one for each email. And don't forget to check who you're sending the email to. If you have two Brians, two Wendy's, and just make sure that you check the email address well, because whenever we are tired, we make a lot of mistakes. And for example, one of my personal job responsibilities is to share the email addresses to be added to the the email communication email group. And if I share that information, email addresses, with the other colleague whose name is also Brian, then it's really not recommended, because I'm not allowed to share that information to the other Brian or to anyone other than that person. So I usually check it, because when I'm tired, I also make mistakes. And out of office messages, whenever you are out, and as I've discussed, we are expected to respond back within 24 hours. So if we are out of the office and if we don't use the out of office message, the other person might think that we are not responding to them intentionally. Some of the out office must include pointer, how long the person that you are contacting to is unavailable, who to contact in their absence, and the person's return date. And good examples, one of the good example is, hello, thank you for your email. I'm out of the office and will be back. So I've included the information when I'm coming back, 5th of April. During this period, I will have limited access to my email. For immediate assistance, please contact Sarah Jones at this and this one. Also providing the person to my alternative contact in case there is an emergency or the person wants the answer immediately. The bad example is this one, even though it may sound funny, but it's not professional. Hey, I'm currently out of the office and probably out of my mind drunk. Enjoy your work week. So this is not the email out of message email that we should use, even though it may be 5 people company, but still we need to keep it professional when we are talking about the business email etiquette. Another one, I don't know if this will play also. So therefore I will use YouTube again. These are some of the email etiquettes and not following the email etiquette in real life. And this is a really exciting video as well. Okay. Let's see here.
Hey Tyler, you going to that all-day meeting tomorrow?
I'll be on vacation from Tuesday, June 27th until 2 days ago.
Your auto response is still on.
I'll be on vacation from Tuesday, June 27th until 2 days ago.
Okay, everyone, I need you to send me your reports ASAP before lunch if possible.
Will do, Trip. Will do, Trip. Will do, Trip. Will do, Trip.
Why are you including me in this?
We'll be there around 7 tonight, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Kind regards, Trip Crosby, Regional Sales Manager. Work 404-555-6112, extension 405. Mobile 404-555-3767. Email trip@biz. Success is always an option. John Maxwell, author.
Here's that report you needed.
I don't see anything.
Oh, dang it, I forgot to attach it.
Hey Beth, did you see all the submissions we got today?
OMG, I know!
Easy on the old caps.
Sorry.
It's okay. Semicolon, close parenthesis.
Hey, son. You have to watch this video of this cat sleeping on a horse. It is so cute.
Mom, I'm at work.
Dear friend, I am Johnson Emmanuel. This might come to you as a surprise. I'm the next heir to the throne in Nigeria, and I want to offer you a large sum of money.
Please stop coming here.
Hi, Trip. Are you satisfied with...
Hi, I'm the administrator. I could not deliver this document. It was too big. On Monday at 10:37 a.m., Paul wrote, "Hi, Trip. This is the latest version of the document you were looking for. Hope it's not too late. Paul."
Yeah, I know what I wrote.
Hey, really looking forward to seeing you guys tonight. Oh yeah, circular disclosure. The information transmitted just now is intended only for the person or entity to which it is addressed, and it may contain confidential and/or privileged material. Any review, retransmission...
I don't know what that means.
Inbox full.
That's what he said. Hey, what's this poker game I hear about this weekend?
Who's that guy?
You mean to bring anything, or...?
I meant to invite a different David. Rain check?
Email can be frustrating, but that's probably because you're trying to use it for the wrong things, like status report.
Well, hope you enjoyed that one as well. Let me share my presentation. So I will close my presentation with this quote from Marilyn Mann that says about email writing, which I think is a really, really good advice. Assume everyone you are communicating with is smarter than you are and cares more than you and is busier than you. So this is a really good recommendation to keep in mind when we are writing emails. So just remember, when sending emails, we are representing both ourselves and our organization. Therefore, it's highly important to put our best foot forward and present ourselves as professionally as possible. So as I've discussed, that means writing clearly, concisely, and keeping email do's and don'ts in mind. And I hope this presentation will help you to become email etiquette superheroes. Please, I think we have 10 more minutes. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Jordan, I don't know if we have had any questions yet, but I will have to answer them.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was a great presentation, and I loved your videos highlighting the points you were making. So now it's time to put questions or comments in the chat if you have any for Anna on professional emailing and anything about, I guess, the finesse of that. So I'll go ahead and watch the chat.
Thank you, Jordan.
If anyone has any questions.
And I've also included my contact information. If there are any questions that you may, come up after this presentation, please make sure to email me. I'll be happy to discuss that offline.
Awesome. And they can practice their etiquette when emailing you, huh?
Can you say that again, Jordan? Your voice
I said they can practice what they learned when they email you.
Right, exactly. And it's really, I think, really important. And I didn't know, when I started working internationally, I didn't know how important writing a good email was. And it really helps you be promoted, seek, good job opportunities. So I'll be happy to help you. I think that we have a question, right?
Yes, we have two questions, both pertaining to culture, which is a good question for you because you work very internationally. Dr. El-Faraji said, what culture would you consider if you were addressing different individuals from multiple countries?
It really depends. It's a really good question. It really depends, what's the context of the email. But if you're, writing to people that, with different cultures, I think I would still search the information about all the cultures just to make sure, for example, like the Japanese culture, if I'm including anything in the email that I should. But however, if there is, multiple cultures, I think it would just be the like going international, meaning that we just follow the general email etiquette, trying to be professional, not using the humor or sarcasm. So in that sense, if we have a lot of people, we just don't, pay attention to just one culture or not. It will just be the general email. And of course, making sure that even the general doesn't go against, some cultures.
So almost making like a very basic, easy to understand.
Indeed, yes.
Okay.
Thank
and
you.
The next question is from Uyak. She says, cultural background is important. Is it important to consider the background and circumstances of the senders so that you can avoid overreacting sometimes?
Is it important to consider the background and circumstances of the senders? So do you mean who do you mean the sender?
So sometimes, so what I mean is, for instance, right, you know how as I'm sending email, I'm considering the background of the person that I'm sending the email to. So I'm extremely conscientious. I do my homework, make sure I'm sending it in the right context. But sometimes I will receive email, or we all receive email from time to time, and that may rub you off the wrong way because maybe the person sending to you has not considered your cultural context, right? And so before overreacting, how important is it to either seek clarification or consider where that other person sending to you is coming from, regardless of the fact that I would have done my own homework before sending to you? So that's kind of what I'm asking.
Yes, and I think you are right, Hassan, because even overreacting, if even like in the email etiquette, if we are too friendly, that's also not considered a professional. So there should be, I think, that balance. And then the balance should be, you have to make the decision, from the common sense, not only from getting the information about the person, but also I think you always have to avoid overreacting, being too friendly, because just on the level when we can make the other recipient feel comfortable. And even if that cultural thing, if you don't use it, I don't think, and I have not had any cases in my practice when someone was offended, because if it's really nice and they don't really expect you, I think, to know their culture. But sometimes there are those cultures where, there are things that if you don't know that they will be offended. So I think, yes, somewhere in the middle always is kind of a golden balance outside. But thank you for that question. That's really, that's a really, really good question.
Mm-hmm. Great question, Uyak. Any other questions we have for Anna? I see lots of praise in the chat for a great and oh, my mind just drew a blank. I'm looking for all-encompassing presentation.
Thank you, Jordan. Just one thing I also want, the one last note I want to share is that I may have forgotten to mention that as well. Please do not mix your personal and professional emails. Never send anything from your work email that's personal. Even a small, because most of the email policy of the organizations that says it like really, really clearly. So please do not make that mistake, even if it's not that a big mistake. It may cause email-related firing. So please be aware of that.
Okay, we have another question that says, some formal correspondence require signing off and official stamping. How is this applied in email communication? I'm not quite sure the meaning of this question. Eric, would you like to clarify?
So if it's the formal correspondence and it really says that it needs to be like sent physically, yes, email wouldn't be the alternative in this. Yes, how is this applying in email communication? So yes, if Eric, you could clarify, that would be great, because I didn't quite get that.
No, there's like a new feature that asks for read receipts on your emails. Almost like
I can clarify, Jordan. So normally when you see higher level university emails, it will come as an actual memo as opposed to email. And on the top of the memo, you'll see everybody listed whose office it's going to pass through and who has to sign off on that email. And traditionally what happens is it gets printed out by the executive assistant, and then the person physically signs it, and then it gets re-scanned and passed to the next person. To answer Eric's question very briefly, DocuSign is the way that we now do that.
Okay. Okay, here's another one. What coaching tools would you use to best address the younger generation and the present day impact of social media communication platforms?
So let me clarify. Ibel, so do you mean in the email?
Okay, so now I'm thinking about as for example, we're addressing these issues in our classrooms where we have a whole generation of students that are not utilizing email as a solidified form of communication. So when you're thinking about it in the realm of teaching a class of young 20-somethings, what would you use as the best way to kind of address this younger generation? Because once again, you're dealing with another generational communication divide with regards to what they feel is appropriate and not appropriate. So I've seen that you use these two YouTube videos, which I thought were phenomenal, but do you have any other strategies that you could suggest that we could address this divide? Because, you know, their communication tools are inundated with emojis and all of these forms. Well, what would be a strategy that you could maybe offer a new instructor in a classroom when you're dealing with college level students, and how to approach walking through these steps?
So to teach them about the email writing, and you mean
Yes.
the new generation, right?
Yes, right.
Well, I think, I mean, that's unfortunately that, you know, because there is, even in this generation, in this era, the email etiquette excludes using emojis, slangs. I know, even though, like, whenever I started, you know, searching some emails, the way the emails they send to professors, it includes, you know, slangs, you know, abbreviations. And however, unfortunately, this doesn't change the email etiquette. However, if you want to teach them, you know, I think because when I teach the young, you know, freshmen, I think they usually learn more, like you said, through the videos. I think I also have some games, I think, whenever I teach them. So either the group work, because when they have to write it on their own in the groups, and then I have the other group go through the email and kind of evaluate each other. Otherwise, you know, giving them instructions usually doesn't really work well. And a lot of my students are visual learners. So usually either something like sharing something on the screen, through the games, they learn much, you know, better than usually they would not be able to, you know, listen to such a big presentation, because it would have been boring for them. So I absolutely get your point.
You know, some of my professors have even put a section in their syllabus regarding email expectations and how to address them and what to include. Like, for example, always include your UIN and your sign off to make things easier for them. So I've definitely had some professors like put their expectations for communication in their syllabus, but I haven't had any do videos or anything, and I feel like that would have been helpful as an undergrad. So yeah, definitely some netiquette. With that, it's 11:03, so I want to start wrapping this up. I want to thank our speaker, Anna, again, for a fabulous presentation. And again, I'm just so thankful to start inviting some more diverse and international speakers to into this space to help teach us. And I also want to thank our international partners. We had people from Kenya, from the United States, from Cambodia, and from Georgia, all here today. And yeah, I'm really happy to see everybody here, and that we have this platform in this space to learn together and grow together in our research and writing agenda. So with that, I want to say goodbye to you all, and I want to thank you for coming. I know it's light because there's some conferences going around this time of year, but this was very informative and very helpful, and I'm glad we had the chance to learn together today.